welcome back. And we're moving into our final conversation for today as we have a conversation about the upcoming annual Day of the Seafarer. Of course, we have on set with us to tell us more about it, Felicia Vargas, who is the Senior Administrator for IMMARBE. We have in the middle Stacey Swift, who is the Manager of Policy Planning and Public Regulations at the Belize Port Authority. And on the end, we have Edmond Staine, who is the Seafarers Manager at IMMARBE. Good morning and welcome. And let's start with a very important thing, the definition of who a seafarer is. Let's start there.
Well, it's not as John said. John said that he thought it was people that were afraid of being at sea.
That was my thought.
That's definitely not it. By definition, of course, the seafarers are defined under the Maritime Convention of the Standards of Training, Certification, and Watchkeeping, which gives you the competence for being at sea. And it's defined as people that actually work on board ships. So for our purposes, we have to endorse people that work on board ships. And so we are mandated by convention, since Belize ratified the convention, to actually acknowledge this day, which is the Day of the Seafarer. And the Belize Port Authority, they have a function by way of fulfilling our responsibility under SCCW also. And for their purposes, they are here with us. We have amalgamated all the maritime agencies in the country, and we're pushing towards a joint effort to try to see how we can give homage to the people that are in Belize as seafarers on that day.
You know, I like the fact that you segue into it, and then again you gave the definition. So thanks for the question, my lady. It's clear. Now, one of the things we don't do is actually recognize the people who actually works on ships. You know, we don't do that. How important are these people to our community?
Well,
okay, let me take it over from there. Well, do you imagine anything that you have with you currently? Probably your cell phone, probably your tablet. Do you even come to think how they come across on this side of the world?
They're touching every house.
Exactly. So it's everything. It's all having to do with the shipping. And who brings it over but our seafarers? Right. So that's a very important factor, that everything around 90% of the world is the commercial is being shipped to us. Yeah. So the seafarers are the ones who are out there. They leave their homes for months, and they would ensure to undergo this long voyage, and they would reach on this side of the world to bring whatever commodity, whether it's luxury, whether it's something important, for us to have on this side. So it's very vital, and this is why we have to acknowledge them. I mean, we might not be even come to think how grateful we should be to these personnel that are on board these ships that work for us and bring these stuff on this side of the world. So yes, it is important. That's the reason this year we decided to collaborate with the three maritime agencies, which is the Belize Port Authority, IMMARBE, and the Coast Guard, to go on board a vessel and acknowledge a ship that will be calling our port, so that we can acknowledge the seafarers that are on board.
Now, I just want to add that the 25th of June is commemorated worldwide as the Day of the Seafarers. It was at a 2010 Manila conference to revise the STCW, where they mentioned that they would celebrate this day as the Day of the Seafarers. So every 25th June is celebrated worldwide as the Day of the Seafarers. It's also underneath the United Nations Observance Day. Yeah. And so we also want to recognize not only international seafarers, but also our local seafarers in the industry.
Yeah. Wow. Now, you know, obviously, if they've been given a day to commemorate the work that they do, it really shows to their contribution. But it also means that there perhaps are plights or challenges that they undertake, obviously being at sea at an extended period of time. Being away from family, but also the natural risks that it entails. Talk to us about what the challenges are of our seafarers.
Well, the main reason why we ended up having all these conventions in maritime is because of some issue that we have at sea.
Yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't for Titanic sinking, we wouldn't even have a SOLAS convention or even an IMO.
Really?
You know, to even have maritime. You know, that was what really started, you know, the changes that took place in regards to dealing with that. It was always all focused on safety first, and they realized subsequently that, you know what, we have to try to look at the interests of the people that are working at sea. And there's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of piracy happening. There are some people that are on board that are treated as slaves, because, you know, if they don't do what the captain says, they leave them at sea. Wow. They throw them overboard, that sort of stuff. And there's also questions of competence, that there are some people that are on board the vessel that do not have the level of competence that was necessary to actually maneuver the vessel properly and avoid harming the people on board and also the environment.
Yeah.
So these things were took into consideration, and as such, that's where the advent of the SCCW convention came in. Which is the standards of training, certification, and watchkeeping.
Yeah.
The first version came in 1978, and it was recently amended in 2010, and that's where a part of our compliance as Belize has to show how we can develop systems that show our level of competence as a maritime administration to administer the provisions of this convention. So a part of that is us having this day and reaching out to our people and showing that we have a human side also, and we want to see that seafarers' well-being are kept properly. I mean, if you can see the conditions of some of these ships that traverse the world, I mean, the living conditions are rough. You know, being a seafarer is one of the toughest jobs. I mean, your life is at risk every second of the day. Of course. You know, so it's very difficult. And so the fact that IMO and the UN by extension took the opportunity to put it as an observance day is very big, and it gives us an opportunity now to slow down from our work that we're doing and see how we can reach out to the seafarers. And as a committee, we came up with the idea to go on board a ship that's in port. And the ship that's going to be imported is a sugar ship. So that's probably the worst ships that come into the country. Really? Because of the conditions. Meaning the conditions of the vessel, because of the type of work that they do. You know that the sugar is kind of corrosive in its nature. And it acts against the metal on the ship. So most of these ships, they have some rust and so on. And the conditions, you guys have to stay at sea. You know, while they load these things, they load these ships for months. I mean, if you see the sugar ships that come to Belize, they stay sometimes over a month, sometimes 2 months. Especially in the rain season, because you have to close the hatches whenever it rains, because the sugar, you know, it will react with the water and become a big lump, right? So it takes a lot for them to be at sea. And we as the maritime agencies in Belize, we want to amalgamate and try to see how we can big up these people on board and tell them, you know what, Belize is here, and we thank you for being in our country and for taking our sugar on this day. And as such, you want to have our delegates go on board and actually give a token of appreciation to the ship.
So talk to us about the certification portion, because if we are to come up to standards, what are we looking at in where we are in having the proper certification?
Well, basically, that's my job, right? So I guess I will that was another question. But to be honest, I mean, there's a lot of things that, you know, we're not privy to really speak about, but for this purpose, I'll be able to tell you that as a country, Belize have just took over the registry because it was in private hands first. And I can say that we're in the hands of some very competent Belizeans. And I'm happy to be a part of that team. You know, and right now we are kind of behind because the people that were in charge first didn't do enough to fulfill our level of compliance in the eyes of the IMO. So right now I'm kind of bogged down, and as a team we're bogged down trying to get our compliance to where it is, and this is a part of it because the things like this should have been happening every year since 2010, right? Since it came into inception. And also we signed on to the convention, but we didn't do enough to show what compliance or what level of compliance that they wanted us to have. So we have to ensure that we amend the regulations, create our procedures, create our guidelines over so that they match up with the provisions of the new version of the STCW. So that's what we're doing right now, and we're looking to submit our communication of information shortly to get our approval to provide more services on behalf of the seafarers that work on board Belizean ships.
Who would be seafarers in Belize? What type of workers are we talking about?
The seafarers will be classified as our local seamen, our captain or masters on board these vessels, and also the stevedores. They would be classified as seafarers as well. So we really want to commemorate them and acknowledge their achievement and actually the work that they do.
Is there, or will there be like an expo for youths or kids? Yes.
We plan to do that. World Maritime Day is commemorated on the 28th of September. So we, this committee, we will be having a fair, and all the organization, the maritime and the shipping sector, we hope to invite to get them on board to promote their organization and what it is that they do. So we intend to do that for World Maritime Day and get the students involved, of course, and also female students, because I'm also a part of the Women in Maritime Association in the Caribbean. I am the vice president for the PR and marketing, and so I'm promoting females to actually choose a maritime career. At the Belize Port Authority, we have very much technical officers who are females. We have 2 port state control officers. who actually go on board and board these foreign vessels to ensure that they are in compliance with the international conventions and the domestic laws of Belize.
Do we have any female captains or masters?
Currently, we have 2 female seamen because they're not classified as sea women.
Okay.
All right, so sea men. And recently, one of them undergo a small boat handling course offered by the Belize Defense Force Maritime Wing. And so she is in the capacity to operate as a coxswain of one of these vessels. So we're really pushing the momentum here.
Trailblazer.
We have to acknowledge that both BPA and IMMARBE, their senior or the is actually both females.
Exactly.
So we have females really dominating the maritime sector. I mean, it was always, sorry Edmond, it was always, it was always that you saw men, like you said, see men. So now seeing more the female, and like Stacey explained, WEMAC now is an important part of promoting female being a part of Seafarers. So definitely that's one of the things for the expo that we want to see for the coming, what it looks like at the career, and promote it here in Belize, because we don't have most young personnel that would be interested into wanting to learn, taking maritime as a career. They could go work on board a ship, they could go on a cruise ship. We're finding that because they're requesting for these cruise ship to have people to be on board, we're finding more Belizeans coming to want to know what it is. What do we need to know to do? So this
and
is
knowing the risks involved, as well as what is usually a very cramped space.
Yes, exactly. I think that's why the IMO over the years have been promoting using different hashtags. I think one of the first ones was thank you Seafarers, and then the other one was what the Seafarers brought for me on this side, and then last year was Seafarers Matter, and this year is the Seafarers Well-Being, because we want to ensure that their well-being, mental, spiritual, everything, to promote them, to ensure that they're doing
I
fun.
thought of that when I read the mental health part, and I have one image that came to mind. When a pilot boards a ship out waters, I just think that is one of the most fascinating things to look at when they have to, I mean, that's literally risking your life each time you do it. And they do it all the time, so they're trained when they hop on board. But I'm sure there are many other challenges and risks and challenges that come along. Talk to us about how, even as the agencies who are planning the day and you're going to do your outreach, how you would speak to seafarers about helping to cope with all those challenges.
Well, one of the things that we found ourselves doing, because this is the campaign Seafarers Well-Being, one of the main things is I think that we wanted to ensure is that, like you said, the well-being. I mean, psychologically, I would say we are giving like small trinkets or probably spiritual sayings or something to them, to reach out to them, to know that, hey, and the fact of the whole acknowledgement in itself as well is to know that, no, we are aware what you do. We want to thank you. This is a way how to speak to them and reach out to them, and seeing that we're going all about to go on board, even if it's one vessel for now, probably next year might be more, who knows. But I mean, that small step of acknowledging them and knowing that we are well aware as to what they go through every day, well, for us. And like you said, when you had to see that what they went on board and what it is, what it entails, it's a challenge, but I am sure they love what they do, and I'm more than pretty much sure that they will be super happy when we go on board and acknowledge them and know that, yes, we are aware what you do and we're here for you.
On the IMO level, the ILO separated maritime all in itself because of these issues that you're speaking to. I mean, there's so many complaints that seafarers put forward, saying that the way they're treated, sometimes they don't get their wages on time, and they supported them to actually have unions for trade. And one of the things that IMO did in 2006 was to create a maritime labor convention. And the MLC is something that came into force, and Belize is also a member of that. And that's where we have technical ways of going on board and checking that certain things are in place, that guys have a proper place to sleep, they have health care, they have they're fed properly, they get enough hours of rest, which was something that was a great issue. So now they have specific hours of rest, and there are times where you have to have the staff rotate, and now we have opportunities now as port state control officers to go on board and verify that all these things that are put in place by the MLC are actually implemented. And if they're not, then they have charges that can be brought against the ship owners and also the ships themselves. So that's a system that was created through the ILO and in conjunction with the IMO, and then they were able to put together the MLC, which helps somewhat. But you know, there are always people that try to get in between the cracks, and especially when they're working at high seas. And there are some ships that actually stay in the high seas, especially with the fishing vessels, because fishing vessels have the worst complaints against them, because they have these fish factories that stay at sea, and they have ships that come that bring fuel for them, bring rations for them, and they just process the stuff and take away their cargo and go, so they can stay months on end
Yeah.
at
Really?
sea. Yeah,
Wow.
so these are some situations that have no jurisdiction. So there's jurisdictional issues that IMO had to deal with, and they came up with the Djibouti code and different codes that are able to have people like the Italian Coast Guard and the US Coast Guard can go at high seas and arrest you and take you back to their jurisdiction in case
Yeah.
they find you in non-compliance. If you guys see the movie Captain Phillips, you will
Yes.
see basically what happened there. That was in high seas. There was not anybody's jurisdiction, but the Coast Guard was able to apprehend these people and take them to their jurisdiction to charge them. And these are the new things and new innovative ways that the IMO
To
is trying
fill
to
the gaps.
yeah,
in-
yeah. So try to see how we can have a level playing field for everybody.
You know, one
So-
of the things that sticks out to me, because there's so many careers that we've got, but they're not vocal. We don't know about them. For me, totally ignorant to a seafarer actually thinking, what, you're afraid for water. You know, but at the same time, I've got to say kudos on the fact that, you know, we're actually highlighting. For many a times we see children following their mom and dad who are actually a part of that career.
Yeah, correct.
But with the expo coming up, that's a definite way to segue the entire thing. Now the 25th is going to be, which 5 days away?
Yeah,
What
of course.
happens on that particular day for these people? On that day, because we're leading up
Yeah.
Yeah.
on that day.
The 25th of June, we intend, as they mentioned, to do a courtesy call on board the sugar vessel Century Royal. And we also intend to have the shipping agencies and the maritime sector to be a part of this. As well, we intend to give a token to show our appreciation to the master and the seafarers on board. So we intend to give them a token and also acknowledge the stevedores who will be there doing their activities on that day. Afterwards, we'll be having an award ceremony whereby we highlight the seafarers in Belize, and we also give a certificate of appreciation to the organization who continue to support us on our journey to sensitize the public on the industry. I just want to add to, as she had mentioned, the commissioner of the Belize Port, the Harbour Master and the Ports Commissioner, she's the first female ever to be in Belize as a Harbour Master. She has two positions, the Harbour Master and the Ports Commissioner, and also Mrs. Garrell, who is the Senior Deputy Registrar for our flag state, which is IMMARBE. So, and since the inception of the Commissioner being there, she's promoted a lot of females who are in the industry, because based on their experience and of course their skills, she is also building on capacity building for our officers as well, our male counterparts as well.
Nice.
Beautiful. Congratulations.
And so let's talk about the expo so people can come out and see what's happening.
Okay. We want to encourage the public and our supported industry to come out to this event. It will be spectacular. You'll get to see what it is that we do in the maritime industry. Most of the time we look at the other industry, the business sector, and we don't tend to focus on the transportation side of the sectors, no? So we want to encourage the public to just come out and show their support, and also our students. We tend to do it the 28th of September.
Okay. So people can look forward to that. But just so we know, the actual day is June 25th. So people can now understand that there is a day celebrating those who work at sea, who help us in being able to have all the things that we need in our everyday life. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thanks for
too.
being on the show.
We're going to go ahead and take our final break, and we'll have our wrap-up, so stay tuned.